Morning to all of you. Once again, I welcome you all on this online teaching platform of Divine Public School, Monapur, Gorakhpur. Dear students, today I am going to explain you part or video second, which is the continuation of video 1 of the chapter The Enemy from your textbook Vistas of class 12, subject English core and the board CBSE. Dear students, before I start explaining the chapter, let me introduce you the writer of the chapter who has written this lesson. The name of the author is Pearl S. Buck. Pearl S. Buck, who was born in 1892 and died in 1973, was an American writer and novelist. She had a Chinese name, Zai Zhenzhu, as she spent her childhood in China, being the daughter of missionaries. She was awarded the Pulitzer Prize in 1932 and the Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1938. Now the introduction of the lesson. This chapter is a thought-provoking story which highlights how a doctor's duty as a trained medical practitioner towards a patient makes him rise above narrow national prejudices. He risks his honor, position and life as well as that of his wife and children by sheltering a runaway prisoner of war of the enemy camp and saving his life. The conflict in the doctor's mind as a private individual and as a citizen with a sense of national loyalty is beautifully portrayed. The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck, is a heart-rending portrayal of the conflict between a man's heart and mind. Whether to listen to the voice of heart or go as per the decision of the mind. There is a confusion. It tells us about how people can help enemies on human grounds. That means this chapter will tell you how you can help those people who are your enemies on human ground. That means on humanity basis. To hate our enemy is natural and justifiable, especially during wartime. This story beautifully depicts how a human being rises above his prejudices to help a wounded enemy. Now dear students, let me give you some brief summary of the video 1 so that you can understand the chapter, or you can say the video second, which is the continuation of part 1. In the video 1, we have studied that the writer introduced the main character of the story, Dr. Sadao Hoki. Dr. Sadao's house was situated on the coast of Japan. He had been living there since his childhood. The house had a low height and was made of stone. Now one day, when he was standing in the veranda and leaning on the railing, he saw something color in black coming out of the mist present in the air from the seaside. That means he was standing, he saw something black coming out of the mist. After a few minutes, he finds that the man staggered and fell, lying on his face. Hana, who is Dr. Sadao's wife, they both together ran towards the man. After reaching the spot, they found the blood stains on the sand. They had a very closer look at the man and they found that the man was wounded. When they turned over the man, they were surprised, they were amazed to see that man, the wounded man, that he was a white man, that means an American, who was the enemy of them and their country. But as they both were doctors, there was a dilemma in their heart what to do with this man. As he was injured and as a doctor, the foremost duty is to save his life. But they listened to their heart, took the decision from their mind, and they decided that they will shelter this enemy in their house, and they brought into their house. So how they brought, what were the intention of Dr. Sadao and his wife, let's see in this video second. Hannah observed that there was only one thing left to do. They must carry him into their house. Sadao was not sure about the reaction of the servants. Hannah suggested that they must tell the servants that they intended to give him to the police. She said that they must do so, otherwise all of them would be in danger. Together they lifted the man. He was very light. They carried him up the steps and into the side door of the passage. They carried him to an empty bedroom. Since the man was quite dirty, Sadao suggested that he had better be washed. If she fetched the water, he would wash the man. Hannah could not bear him to touch the man. She offered to tell the maid Yumi. Sadao took the responsibility of informing others. So this was your paragraph in this slide. But before proceeding towards the explanation of the chapter, let's see the difficult words in this paragraph. First one, which is highlighted in yellow color, is intended. Dear students, the meaning of this difficult word intended is planned. The second difficult word is passage, that means a narrow way. And the third difficult word is fetched, which means go far and then bring back. Now listen to the explanation of this chapter. Now, see the first line. Hannah observed that there was only one thing left to do. Now Hannah said that if they can't throw him back into the sea, then there is only one option left. That was the second option. That means was to carry him home. So they decided that they will carry this wounded man, the enemy, into their house. Sadao was not sure about the reaction of the servants, but Sadao was concerned that the servants would object as they would shelter an enemy. That means Sadao very well knows that when they will take this enemy, the wounded man, into their house, obviously the servants would object for sheltering an enemy. So Hannah suggested that they must tell the servants that they intended to give him to the police. At this point, Hannah said that they would tell the servants that they planned to hand him over to the police once he recovered from the injury. She told him that they must do that. That means they must inform the servants. Hannah added that they must consider their children's future and Sadao's position. Now Hannah was very much worried about the position, about the status of Dr. Sadao, because Sadao was an eminent doctor, a famous doctor in the country Japan. So he was very much worried about the position. For this reason, they thought they had a plan that they will hand over the injured man, the enemy, to the police once he recovered from the wound. She said that they must do so, otherwise all of them would be in danger. Now, as Sadao was a doctor, he has to save the life of this wounded man. Hannah, on the other hand, was very much worried about the Sadao's position. So Hannah thought that if they are not going to hand over this injured man to the police, they would be in danger. Sadao also agrees with Hannah, and he replied that certainly he would do so, and he did not think of doing anything else. That means Sadao was also ready that they will hand over this injured man to the police. Together they lifted the man. He was very light. they carried him up the steps and into the side door of the passage. Now together they lifted the man. That means Sadao and Hannah, they both together lifted the injured man into the house. He was very light. Now here students, the writer has compared the enemy to that of a hen. That means the weight of the enemy is compared to that of a hen. The hen that has not been fed for a long time and its body loses flesh and reduces into mere feathers and skeleton. That much he was very light. That means he was very light in weight. They carried him up the steps and into the side door of the passage. So they carried him up the steps into the side door of the house. The door opened into a passage and they went down the passage towards an empty bedroom. Since the man was quite dirty, Sadao suggested that he had better be washed. Now before explaining this line, I would like to tell you about the empty bedroom. The bedroom which belonged to Sadao's father and had not been used after his death. Now the author describes the room that everything in the room was of Japanese style. Why? Because Sadao's father disliked foreign things. Whatever the infrastructure, whatever materials, whatever decoration was there inside the room, it was all of Japanese style. Hannah went to the cupboard in the wall and took a soft quilt, but she resisted putting it on the injured man. Now dear student, here the question arises, why Hannah resisted putting it on the injured man, the quilt? Actually, the quilt was made up of silk, had a flowery print on it, and the lining was made of pure white silk. For this reason, Hannah resisted putting it on the injured man. Moreover, the man was quite dirty. So Sadao here suggested that he had better be washed. So far as Sadao wants to clean the wounded man before operating upon, he asked Hannah to fetch the water. Dear students, I have already told you the meaning of fetched, which means go for and then bring back. So Sadao asked Hannah to get hot water so that he could wash the man. Hannah did not want that Sadao should touch the man because the man was injured, the man was in dirty condition. Moreover, that wounded man was an American who was the enemy of them and their country. So Hannah did not want that Sadao should touch the man. She said that they would ask the servant Yumi, that means maid here, to clean the injured man. And at the same time, Sadao took the responsibility that he will go and meet the servants of the house and inform them about sheltering the enemy. That means he was going to inform the servants that they had brought into house a injured person, an American, that means white man. So Sadao thought for a moment and agreed with Hannah. Sadao asked Hannah to call Yumi while he would call the other servants. Before he could go out, he saw the injured man's face. Now coming to the next slide. The pallor of the unconscious man's face moved him first to stoop and feel his pulse. It was faint, but it was there. He put his hand against the man's cold breast. The heart too was yet alive. Sadao observed that he would die unless operated upon. The man was very young, perhaps not even 25. The man had to be washed first. However, the servants refused to do so. They did not want their master to heal the enemy. Hannah washed the man till his upper body was quite clean. Sadao put his instruments upon a sterilized towel. He began to wash the man's back carefully. He asked Hannah to give the anesthetic if he needed it. Hannah choked. She clapped her hands to her mouth and ran out of the room. He heard her retching in the garden. She had never seen an operation. Now see the difficult words in this paragraph, students. The first one is pallor, which means paleness on face, you can say dullness. Second difficult word is unconscious, which means not aware and awake to respond. The third difficult word is sterilized, which means without bacterial. And the last one is anesthetic, that means a medicine producing insensibility. Now see the first line. The pallor of the unconscious man's face moved him first to stoop and feel his pulse. Now, as they both have decided that they will inform the servants. For this reason, Sadao asked Hannah to call Yumi, and at the same time he will be calling the other servants to inform them about the injured man. But before he could go out to meet the servants, he saw the injured man's face. It was so dull that he stopped, bent forward, and felt his heartbeat to see if he was alive. The heartbeat was very faint, but it was there. Then Sadao placed his hands on the man's heart to feel it. It was also beating. Sadao concluded thus that the injured man was alive. Sadao observed that he would die unless operated upon. Now, after examining the body, after examining the heartbeat of the injured man, Sadao commented that if the man was not operated upon, he would die. He added that even if he was operated upon and saved, he would die at the hands of the Japanese army. So either ways, he would die. Hannah, who was very much scared, who was very much worried, screamed with fear and asked Sadao not to save the man. She feared that if he lived, their life would be in danger. Is it clear, students? Now the man was very young, perhaps not even 25. That means Sadao questioned that what would be the implications if the man died. He looked down towards the injured man and wondered that he had a lot of energy which had kept him alive through such torture. He countered his thought with the fact that the man was very young. He seemed to be 25 years of age. Now, dear students, when we are young, when we are at the child age, we have a lot of energy. But when we grow old, we start losing our energy. Now, as students, you all are young. You are very energetic students. You have lot of energy in your body. You can do wonders if you dream. So at the age of 25, people do have a lot of energy. Hannah asked him that did he mean the man could die during the operation? Sadao confirmed her question that there is the possibility that the man could die during the operation. So the man had to be washed first. That means before operating upon the injured man, the first thing is to wash the man. However, the servants refused to do so. That means when servants came to know that their master had brought an enemy into the house who was an American, a white man, they refused. They refused to wash it. The servants did not want their master to heal the enemy. The servants, after hearing their master's words regarding the injured man, they resisted, they protested, and they refused to help them out. Actually, they don't want their master to treat or to heal the wound of the enemy and save his life. Hannah washed the man till his upper body was quite clean. Sadao put his instruments upon a sterilized towel. Now, as the servants have refused to clean this injured man, Hannah herself did the work. That means when Yumi also refused, when other servants refused to wash the man, Hana, who was in full of anger, opened the blanket in which the man was injured. She started cleaning the white man. His chest was bare, that means the chest of the injured man was bare. Hana took a small clean towel, dipped it in the steaming hot water as it was asked by Sadao for washing the enemy. So she dipped it in the steaming hot water and washed his face. The man's skin, that means the texture of the enemy, was good. The man's skin was rough due to being exposed to the sun, but it had a good texture and he must have been very fair as a child. Hana kept on cleaning the man's upper body as she had these thoughts. She did not like the man as he was not a child anymore. She did not have the courage to turn him over and she thought of Sadao. So Sadao washed the man's back carefully after turning him over. He asked Hana to give the anesthetic. Now, as Hana was not having the courage to turn him over, he thought of Sadao. He called in a very soft voice called out in a soft voice for Sadao. Sadao had been on the door when she called him. Sadao opened the door. Hana saw that Sadao was carrying his surgeon's emergency bag and was wearing his surgeon's coat. That means Sadao was ready to operate upon. He was prepared to operate upon the injured man. Hana asked Sadao that he decided to operate the man. Sadao replied that yes, he had decided to operate him. Sadao himself turned his back and started treating the wound. Sadao started his work. He opened a sterilized towel on the floor and placed his surgical instruments on it. He asked Hana to give anesthetic to the injured man. For this reason, Sadao told Hana that she would have to help to inject the injured man with a substance that induces insensitivity to pain. Hana replied that she had never done that earlier. Sadao was removing the packing, that means the packing of the sea moss to stop the flow of the blood. So when Sadao removed the packing, the blood started flowing faster. He looked at the wound with the help of the bright surgeon's light fixed on his forehead. He announced that the bullet was inside the man's body. Sadao wondered that how deep the wound made by the rock was. He said that if the wound was not very deep, then he could get the bullet out. He added that the bleeding was not from the surface of the skin, which meant that the wound was deep and the man had already lost a lot of blood. When Hana saw Sadao inspecting the wound, she could not see the sight. She put both her hands on her mouth, jumped up and ran out of the room. Sadao heard her vomiting in the garden, but he continued with his work because Hana had never seen an operation before this. Now Sadao proceeded swiftly. Hana came in. Sadao asked her to saturate the cotton and hold it near his nostril. She had to move it away a little when he breathed badly. Then Sadao got busy. He felt the tip of his instruments strike against something hard. It was just near his kidney. Then with the cleanest and most precise incision, the bullet was out. The man quivered, but he was still unconscious. Sadao gave him an injection and the man's pulse grew stronger. Hana had to serve the young man herself for none of the servants would enter the room. The man grew stronger day by day. The servants decided to quit if their master keep the enemy hidden there. On the seventh day, the servants left together. Hannah carried the morning food to the prisoner. On coming back, she asked Sadao why they could not see clearly what they ought to do. Now see the difficult words in this paragraph, students. The first one is, in the very first line is swiftly, which means quickly, or you can say without delay. The second difficult word is incision, that means a cut. Is it clear, students? Now see the explanation. Listen it very carefully. Sadao proceeded swiftly, that means Sadao started working on the man, on the injured man. At the same time, Hannah entered the room and asked Sadao for the anesthetic, which she had to administer to the injured man. Her voice was clear, which shows that now Hannah was prepared to help Sadao. Sadao moved his chin to guide her to the bottle of anesthetic. He added that it was good that she came, as the man had started to gain consciousness and it was important to sedate him. Hannah held the bottle and some cotton in her hands. She asked what she was supposed to do. Sadao told her to put some anesthetic on the cotton and to place the cotton near the man's nostril. Is it clear, students? And Sadao added that she should remove the cotton when the man started to breathe badly. And after this, Sadao got busy. Now, he felt the tip of his instrument strike against something hard. Now, at that moment, the tip of his instrument, that means the tip of the instrument, hit something hard, and that was the bullet. It was very close to the kidney. Sadao was happy to have finally found the bullet. He moved his fingers inside the wound. Sadao was familiar with the teeniest part of the human body, as his professor of anatomy in America had told them. Is it clear, students? Now see. The man quivered, but he was still unconscious. That means Sadao was very quick in his work. He made a few surgical cuts on the body and removed the bullet. The man trembled in pain but remained unconscious. He spoke a few words in English, which were an expression of the pain that he was experiencing. Sadao turned quickly and chose a small bottle from the medicines. He filled a syringe with the medicine and pushed the vaccine into the man's left arm. Sadao placed the needle down and held the man's wrist. The pulse shivered once or twice and then improved gradually. By this, slowly and slowly, the man grew stronger day by day. Hannah had to take care this injured man herself, because none of the servants would enter the room. They were not ready to help the master. Sadao, after taking out the bullet and after injecting a medicine to bring his pulse improve, Sadao took a deep breath as he told Hannah that the injured man would leave. On the seventh day, the servants left together. Hannah carried the morning food to the prisoner. On coming back, she asked Sadao why they could not see clearly what they ought to do. As Hannah fed the man, she said that soon he would become stronger. That means she had a conversation with the enemy, and she informed to the enemy that very soon he would become strong. She said so despite the fact that she disliked him, as the injured man was her enemy. On the seventh day, After that, two things happened. The servants of the house left in the morning. They had tied their belongings in a huge piece of cloth. When Hannah got up in the morning, she saw that the work had not been done, the house was dirty, and the food had not been cooked. She realized that the servants were up to something. She was shocked and horrified. She came to know that the servants were leaving. That means she was very much worried. She was scared that there is the possibility that the servants may report this matter of sheltering an enemy to the police. Hannah was very worried and she questioned to Sadao that why they were not very clear about what they ought to do. She added that even their masters were very clear, even their servants were very clear as compared to them. She said that why were they behaving differently from other Japanese people. Hannah wanted to say that as Americans were their enemies, they should not have treated that prisoner of war and they should have let him die just like any other Japanese would have done. Now, in the afternoon, a messenger came in official uniform. He asked Sadao to come to the palace at once as the old general was in pain. Hannah breathed a sign of relief. When Sadao came to say goodbye, she revealed her fear. She had thought that they had come to arrest him. Sadao promised to get rid of that man for her sake. Sadao told the general about the man he had operated upon. The general acknowledged why Sadao was indispensable to him. The general promised to send his private assassins to kill the man and remove his body. He asked Sadao to leave the outer partition of the white man's room to the garden open while he slept. Now look at the difficult word here, students. Indispensable. That means essential, or you can say too important to be without. Now see the first line for the explanation. In the afternoon, a messenger came in official uniform. Now that second day, that means that day, the second incident happened in the afternoon. Hannah was busy with the household work. She was very much tired. She saw that a messenger wearing official uniform had come to the house. As she saw him, her hands went weak and she was unable to breathe. This was because she felt that the servants must have told the authorities that they were sheltering an enemy. So Hannah ran up to Sadao to inform him. Sadao was reading a book sitting in his office. But the messenger also followed Hannah through the garden and he stood in front of Sadao. The messenger said that Sadao was supposed to accompany him to the palace. He added that the old general was suffering in pain and Sadao was supposed to visit him and treat him as a doctor. That means this messenger was of general. He has come to inform Sadao that general is in need of Dr. Sadao as he was suffering in pain. As soon as Hannah heard this from the mouth of the messenger that he had come only to take Sadao along with him, she breathed a sign of relief. So before leaving, that means Sadao very well knows that he has to go along with the messenger. So before leaving the house, he came to Hannah to say goodbye. She revealed her fear. That means after listening to the words of the messenger, after consoling by the Sadao, she revealed her fear. That means she came to the comfort zone, but students, she revealed her fear in front of the Sadao. She told Sadao that she thought that they had come to arrest him. Sadao looked very carefully at Hannah's anxious eyes. He was very sad and distressed and he said that he must get rid of the man for her sake. Now, after reaching to the palace, Sadao narrated the entire story to the general. The general, who was very weak, said that he understood Sadao's position because he had also studied in America at the Princeton University. Now the general said, after knowing, as it was narrated by the Sadao, that he had successfully operated upon an injured man, the general said that in that case he could not allow anything to happen to Sadao. He wanted to say that he needed Sadao and so he would protect him, because the general very well knows that in his serious condition he would require Sadao for operation. And Sadao was very important for him. The general promised to send his private assassins to kill the man and remove his body. The general said to Sadao that the best solution was to kill the man quietly. He added that he would not be killed by Sadao but by his hired killers. He would send 2 killers to Sadao's house that night or any night. Sadao did not need to know about the plan. As the weather was warm those days, he wanted Sadao to act naturally and keep the door of the outer partition of the man's room open as it opened into the garden. It would give easy access to the killers while the man was asleep. Sadao went home thinking over the plan. He would tell Hannah nothing. He was surprised to see the young American out of bed and preparing to go into the garden. He complained that the muscles on one side felt stiff. Dr. Sadao said that exercise and massage will be helpful. He then asked Tom, the young American, to go to bed. Sadao slept badly that night. The next morning, Sadao went to the guest room and found him asleep. The second night also passed. The young man was still there. He had shaved himself. There was a faint color in his cheeks. Now, after narrating the whole story to the general and discussing on the plan, how to kill that enemy, how to dispose the body of that injured man, Sadao came back home. On the way, he kept on thinking of the plan that he had made along with the general. He thought that in this way he would not be involved in the death of that American man. He planned that he would not tell Hannah anything about this plan, because Hannah would not like the idea of the hired killers coming to their house. But such persons were essential in a place like Japan. It was the only way for the rulers to deal with their opponents. So Sadao did not let any thought enter his mind. As he went into the room where the American man lay asleep, he was surprised to see the man out of his bed. He was getting ready to go out into the garden. Now Sadao was shocked as he asked him that who had permitted him to stand and walk. Tom, the name of the injured man, or you can say the enemy. Tom was happy and said that he was not in a habit of asking permission before doing anything. Tom said that he felt good again. Just the muscles on the sides of his body were stiff and rigid. Now Dr. Sadao said that the exercise and massage will be helpful for him. Dr. Sadao that exercise and massage will be helpful for him. He then asked Tom, the young American, to go to bed. Sadao slept badly that night. Now he helped the man lay in bed, bowed to him, and said good night. In the morning, Sadao made an excuse to go into American man's room first. He had planned that if the man was gone, then he would tell Hannah the whole story, the whole plan that the general had ordered for him to be removed from there. When he opened the door, he saw the man, who had lots of yellowish colored hair, was asleep. The next morning, the American man was still there in the room. Sadao was hopeful that they might come on the third night. After that night also, in the morning, Sadao went into the guest room and saw the man was there. He was happy, that means the Tom was happy and had taken his bath and had started moving around. He had borrowed a razor from Sadao the previous day and had shaved his beard. The color of his cheeks was slightly pinkish, which indicated that he was recovering and regaining good health. Now, dear students, in this slide, I have given you few question answers. You have to write the answer of these questions. Question number 1. What solution did Hannah offer to resolve Sadao's predicament? Question number 2. How did Sadao and Hannah take the man inside their house? Question number 3. Why did Dr. Sadao had to touch the man? What did he observe? Question number 4. Why had Hannah to wash the wounded man? Question number 5. How did the servants react when their master told them about the wounded white man? Question number 6. What help did Sadao seek from Hannah while operating the wounded white man? So there are 6 questions for you all. You have to write the answer in the classwork copy and you have to submit the copy when the school gets reopened. Thanks students for watching and listening this video. I will be once again back with the video number 3, which will be the continuation part of the video 2nd. Thank you very much.